lovely music tells you not only is it the end of the show, but it's the best bit of the show. It's the low stakes debate where two guests go head to head on some of the most pressing issues facing our nation. Today, should you put clothes on your dogs? Broadly speaking, Times Radio listeners are against it, but there has been a bit of a fight back, and dogs have actually started texting in about it. Pip and Pixie are two Yorkshire Terriers. They've texted in to say, "We feel the cold like you and are so happy our owner puts winter coats on us when it's cold, wet and or windy. It pleases her also that we're not muddy when we go home." So there you go. Pip and Pixie, they work with Martina, who hates the show, but I'm pleased that Pip and Pixie love the show. So let's talk about this topic. Kerry Jordan is a pet photographer from Fur and Fables, and Kerry thinks you should put clothes on a dog. Welcome to the show, Kerry.
Thank you.
Graeme Hall, also known as the Dog Father, once interviewed by me at the Wantage Literary Festival, no less, one of the UK's top dog trainers, says don't put clothes on a dog. Welcome to the show, Graeme.
Thank you for having me.
Kerry, I don't want to tilt the scales, but it feels to me like you're rowing against the tide of public opinion. Make the case for dogs and clothes.
It's really interesting that you say public opinion, because I've worked in the pet industry for 10 years, including with commercial pet products. And I feel like the tide is turning for the coats on dogs, specifically because our lifestyle's changing, you know, where we have dogs that are just city bound and not being able to run around in parks. So having short-haired dogs myself, I think coats and jumpers are a necessity, especially in the cold weather.
Well, there you go. It's a very simple thesis put forward there, Graeme, by Kerry, which is dogs with short hair living in cities need a coat to keep warm, just like their owner.
Yes, said the person who's a photographer, and so it's all about the look, isn't it? And yeah, you're right, society is changing, and some people spend half their life on Instagram, and that's where they want a cute picture of the dog wearing something daft. The fact is that dogs weren't designed to wear clothes once upon a time, and then humans came along and created breeds that actually do have very short hair, and some of them might need a sensible coat now and again, but they definitely don't need all of the costumes that we see. Most of them don't like it, and you know, I occasionally see a picture of a dog and their ears are back. There's some very subtle signs that people don't pick up on. Sometimes yawning, licking lips. You know, mainly, I would ask the question: who are you doing it for? Is it for your dog or for you?
Well, Sasha's texted in a picture of the lovely Emerson, who is wearing a bow tie but not a cummerbund. Des has gone fully for Minpin Rodney, wearing a top hat and evening dress. But Kerry, Graeme has really thrown down the gauntlet there. You're not interested in the dogs, you're interested in the photographs.
Okay, well, there was a couple of things that Graeme said that I actually, one of them I agree with. I don't agree with dressing up dogs for purely aesthetic reasons. And as a photographer, I do actually photograph pet brands with functional coats and functional jumpers rather than accessories. And, you know, we're not living in the 1800s anymore. I own whippets. They were bred to hunt, and so they were outdoors and active. Their body temperatures were raised constantly. I now live in Cumbria, where, you know, they have to be kept on lead quite a lot because they're sheep, and they're not zoomy dogs. There are a lot of whippets who are zoomy dogs, but mine like plodding, so they need to be able to regulate their temperature with a coat in cold weathers. I've just been out for a walk and it's like -1. They wouldn't have survived outside on just a collar and a lead, so I put a jumper on them.
Yeah, I mean, Graeme, it's the short-haired dog we're thinking about here. I mean, I've got a Cavapoo. She just went yesterday for a haircut. I don't put clothes on her, but when I took her out for a walk this morning, I wondered, is she a bit tired? I mean, a bit cold. Kerry's got a point there. You know, you got your whippet, which runs around and raises its body temperature, but when it has to be kept at walking pace because there are sheep around, maybe a coat is the right answer.
Yeah, well, there is a point there, and there are certain breeds that could do with a coat in the coldest weather. So I absolutely accept that point. And funnily enough, whippets, greyhounds, Chinese crested, hairless dogs spring to mind. Fair enough, but I see an awful lot of people dressing up dogs for what I would say were the wrong reasons. And if I might say, your listeners who've got 2 Yorkshire Terriers, pretty hardy dogs. They come from Yorkshire. If they're appreciating a coat, they must live down south. They've gone soft.
Yeah, exactly. They're going soft, Kerry. We're softening up our dogs. They're hardy breeds. I mean, they do all sorts of things we wouldn't do. They sniff things we wouldn't do. They sniff parts of other animals that we wouldn't sniff. We can't teach them those kind of manners. Why on earth should we be putting clothes on them?
Well, again, it's the fact that we're adapting, we're evolving as humans, and our dogs are evolving with us. So Graeme's right, there are dogs that just don't need a coat. So I wouldn't expect to see a Burmese mountain dog in a coat in any circumstances. It's just not necessary, and it would overheat. Whereas with the shorter breed dogs, and I lived down south, so my dogs were southern softies for a little bit, and now they've hardened up a little bit in the Cumbria weather. But it's still whippets and Vaizleys and even German short-haired pointers, if they're not running around constantly, they are adapting to our lifestyle. So they are going to be just walking and plodding along and not hunting. So they are going to need to help regulate their temperature in really cold weathers, and especially when it's wet and cold.
Somebody texted in earlier to say that the reason that Vaizleys should wear a coat is that you could say that your Vaizler was wearing a high Vaizler. But Ching, is there a compromise as well? I think we've got to the point where short-haired dogs, there might be an argument. Sarah says Hetty does not like wearing clothes. She has a lovely wearing coat. But when she's been a total ditch something at 10 and a half years old, she's very grateful for her rough and tumble dry coat. If you're taking your dog out for a very muddy walk, Graeme, is there some sense in putting effectively a kind of raincoat on it?
Well, maybe, but most dogs would rather you didn't. And again, I come back to this question: who are you doing it for? Yeah, it's convenient because you get back to your lovely pristine house with your muddy dog and it doesn't make a mess. But it's like, yeah, most of us who've got dogs, we don't mind a bit of mud. We're kind of used to that. And if I can also add, there's a little point here as well. Sometimes we do dress dogs up because it makes us smile, and we get that shot for Instagram. They're only having fun if indeed they look as though they're having fun because they've read our body language. There's other ways to have fun, I would say.
Brilliant. And that covers a lot of issues there. Graeme Hall, also known as the Dog Father, thank you for coming on and saying that dogs should not wear coats. Kerry Jordan, you put a very compelling case, certainly for the short-haired dog to wear a coat. I'd forgot, of course, that Graeme has met my dog, because when I interviewed him at the Wantage Literary Festival, Pepper sat on my lap throughout the interview and she was very well behaved. Coming up on Monday's show,